Hello, Mary. Welcome. It's so good to be on here with you on our Pragmatic Works YouTube channel. I am a huge fan of your work on TikTok. I follow you on LinkedIn, and I love seeing everything that you're doing out there in the world. It's been so fun watching you come up through this TikTok world, and it's just something so different from everything else that's on my feed, which is cat videos. But I love seeing your stuff. You always start your videos with, if you want to be a data analyst. And so I know when I'm scrolling TikTok, it's if you want to be a data analyst, I'm here she is, let's go. Give me that knowledge. How did you get the confidence to be I know enough about this world, even though it's not your college degree? How did you get that confidence to be I can speak on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I get that question a lot because I still don't feel I only have about 2.5 years of experience in data analytics. So I still don't feel like I am anywhere close to being an expert. But that being said, I think a lot of people, especially young women or just young people in general who are looking to break into tech or looking to, get their first job out of college, I think they're looking for voices that they can relate to, and somebody that kind of acts as a peer mentor or peer tutor figure, and somebody that has done this recently and can give tips on what worked for them recently.
I love the authenticity that you bring to the platform, especially in this world, because there are many voices out there that are giving authenticity. And another thing that you just said that I loved is you said, I'm not an expert. And I feel in this technology world, no matter how long you're in it, you're not going to be an expert, right? Because it's constantly changing. And it's well, here's something new I don't know about. So what are some of the newer trends that you are currently looking into that you're this just came up, so now I got to learn about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question too, because I think the more that I learn, the more that I realize I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of the things that are coming up, obviously AI, that's been the word of the last 2 years is AI. And so I love following other data analytics content creators and seeing what tools they're using, especially as it pertains to AI, and seeing, what they're doing to make their work easier. And I think AI is also very interesting for data analytics because there's always the question of, is my employer going to let me do this, or is my client going to let me do this if you're in consulting? And so it's interesting to see how other content creators are kind of working around that and using AI to make their work more efficient, but not replace them.
And I think that's the big question out there, just not even in this data analytics world, but multiple different jobs that are out there. Is AI going to replace me?
AI is definitely going to have a place within data analytics within the next 5 years. That's my opinion. And I think it's important for data analysts who don't want to be replaced by AI to learn how to provide value beyond just being a task rabbit and, just creating reports and doing tasks. Because I think jobs that people whose roles primarily consist of pulling data, I think they are most likely at risk to be taken over by AI. So I think it's important to, if you have one of those roles, if you can find a way to provide value where you are not just doing tasks, but also looking at the data and providing recommendations based on what you know about the industry and what you know about the business. I think it's very difficult to train AI to know what the other humans in your company want to see, but the other humans know that. And so that's where humans can set themselves apart from AI.
Tell me a little bit about how you ended up in this tech world, because from my understanding from afar is you did not start out here. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my degree is in meteorology. I had always wanted to be a meteorologist since I was really little. And I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know if I was going to do broadcasting or if I was going to be a private forecaster. But I just always wanted to study meteorology, and that was my plan. So when I was in college, I was looking for meteorology internships, and I got an internship with an electric cooperative in Arkansas. And that was kind of my first taste of data analytics. And I didn't know that it was data analytics at the time. I just wasn't familiar with data analytics. And so I did that internship, and I loved it. I love the industry. And so that is kind of what I was using to leverage my background, I guess, and get a job after college. So while I was in college, I was looking for, a job for after I graduated. And so I was leveraging my internship with the electric cooperative. And I was looking for jobs in the energy industry since that's what I loved. And a data analyst position happened to open up for a solar energy company. And I wasn't looking to be a data analyst necessarily. I was kind of just looking for any role that was entry level and would kind of fit my background. And this data analyst position was perfect. So I did that for about 2 years and I loved it. I loved data analytics and I loved exploring all the different data analytics tools that we use, like SQL, Power BI, Tableau. It was just really interesting to me. And so when it was time for me to kind of move on to my next role where I was going to continue to grow, I started to reprioritize from looking for jobs within the meteorology and energy industry space to switching to just focusing on data analytics. So now I'm working in e-commerce and my background is not really well aligned with the job that I have now, but it's something that I love doing and I love, just focusing on data analytics. So that's kind of my plan going forward.
And how does TikTok come into all of this? How did that happen?
Yeah. So I started my TikTok about 11 months ago, almost a year ago. And, I didn't really have a good plan for it. But I had seen a lot of TikTok content creators emerging, talking about data analytics. And that was exciting for somebody who is a data analyst, especially because when people are thinking about what kind of influencer they want to be, data analytics isn't a top pick, go figure. When I saw a lot of people talking about data analytics, I was like, that's really interesting. And that's something that I could speak to because I'm a new data analyst and I would love to give my perspective on, what it's like to break into the field and the practicality of getting a job in this industry with no experience. And so I just started posting videos, not really having a good vision for what I wanted my TikTok page to be, but I kind of figured it out along the way. And I realized that my viewers were really valuing when I offered some kind of useful content or tutorials. And so that's kind of the direction that I started going.
Now, let me ask, there was one TikTok, if you don't know much about me, but I'm a former teacher. I taught math. And you have one TikTok where you talk about how important certain math concepts are. And I'm like, yep, I tried to tell my freshmen this, you're going to need this later in life. You're going to need to know what an average is. It'd be really great if you did. And you spoke on all the different math that goes into this data analytics world. How were you a good math student, or is this something that you've had to learn to grow more comfortable in? What was your thing in school?
Yeah, so I would say math was my thing. I don't think that I was an exceptional student by any means. I wasn't summa cum laude in college or anything. But math was something that if there was something that I was good at, it was math. And just because I think it's logical to me, it's done, the same way every single time. And so it just resonates with me. And that's the side of data analytics that I'm most passionate about.
Definitely. I feel my super deep, nerdy side, the math nerdy side of me really came out when I got into the data analytics world. When I saw it, I was like, wow, I'm such a nerd. This is so cool. And I feel you need a touch of that to make it in here because you got to have passion in what you do. And that nerdiness really comes out. So what else are you kind of nerdy about?
So I loved the energy industry when I was working in that space. And I miss it in my new job when I'm working in e-commerce. I miss having, working in a space that was applicable to my degree. And, I don't know if that's something that I'm going to look for in my next role when the time comes, but I'm really enjoying also learning the new industry that I'm in and learning e-commerce. And I think it's an important industry and it's huge. So I think, something that I'm passionate about is just learning different industries and how data analytics is different within industries. I analyze data completely differently in the e-commerce industry than I would in the energy industry. So it's difficult making the switch and it's difficult learning the different nuances, but it's also just really interesting.
What was your experience being a female in this industry?
So starting out with my first job, I was the only woman who had ever been in my company's or my department within my company. So that was really interesting for me. And so I don't think that I ever felt like I was not given as many opportunities that because I was a woman. I just don't believe that that was ever my experience. I do think, however, that there is a lot of bias around why women are given opportunities. I hear it on social media and even from my friends and family all the time. even if it's just as a joke and they mean it well intentioned, I hear all the time, like, you got this job because, the company was trying to fill a quota, or, you have a large following because you're a young woman. It could be easily debunked too, because, if we look at like the demographics of the people who follow me, it's mostly women.
Yeah.
So if we were to, take that theory and just exclude all my male followers, assuming that they're all following me because I'm a young woman, which I don't believe is true. But even if we did that, I would still have a significant following. People who voice that opinion, it comes off as the person might be dissatisfied with what they have achieved. And I would encourage people to focus, just kind of shift gears between worrying about like why someone else might be successful and instead focus on what can I do to bring myself more success.
Did you have any like female role models that kind of helped you like in this kind of tech or STEM world, even somebody you looked up to or somebody that really helped you along the way?
Yeah, so in tech particularly, I have, role models that I follow on social media that I've never even met, but like Jess Ramos, Megan Liu, also young women who have been in the social media space for longer than I have, and they were kind of the influential voices that I thought of when I started creating content. And so I want to be that for another younger woman, not in data analytics. My older sister is like super successful in what she does, and she's not in data analytics, but she's a very like humble person. And I don't think I ever realized like how smart, exceptionally smart that she was until I grew up and could kind of like see that through an adult's lens. And so that's kind of like the that's the personality that I want to have for myself, just, humble, regardless of like how successful I am.
Now, when you left the solar company, it was because, from what I remember from seeing your videos, it was because you were doing kind of the same thing every day and you were like looking for almost like a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you were ready to kind of step it up. And it sounds like you're kind of in like a realm now where you're not as familiar with the field. Like what gave you that, one, the confidence to leave something that like I actually know what I'm doing here and I feel good, and I'm going to go into something and I might suck at it. This might not go well. Like what deep down in you was like, yeah, let's do that.
I would like to think that I've always been the person who's just kind of like not afraid of taking advantage of opportunities and seeking out opportunities that I might be a little bit hesitant about. And so I was kind of in a place with my last company that I I wanted to get out. It wasn't a bad company or anything like that, but had not progressed as a data analyst in the last like 6 months that I was at that job. And so it was time for me to just find the first job that I could within the data analytics space that was going to hire me. And it may not be within the energy industry, it may not be exactly what I had in mind, but I was willing to take advantage of an opportunity that might be really good for me. And I'm still young in my career. I only have 2 years of experience. So I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of like switching gears and doing something that I'm less familiar with. And it might open more opportunities, more doors for me in the future.
One thing I also notice on your TikTok is not only do you give tips on different data analytic things, but you also give tips on things like interviews and how to find a job. And I read somewhere once that men will apply to just like any job, whether they fit that role or not. They're like, that job sounds cool, I'm going to apply. Where women are really meticulous about like, oh, I don't fit every single one of these criteria, I'm not fit for the job, where they could be a fit for a job.
I experienced that myself as well. I don't want to apply for a job that I'm not fit for because I'm worried that if I get the job, I'm not going to be able to do it, or, I'm going to make a fool of myself or something. And that's kind of how I felt when I applied for the job that I have now. I was like, well, I don't have a background in this, and they're looking for somebody who has, experience in XYZ, and I don't really have that. But then again, I could just apply and be very transparent in my interviews and let them know that, like, I don't have the experience in this, but I have this background that's really unique and might fit well for the role that you're trying to fill. And if you're open to, training somebody who has, the unique background that's a little bit different, maybe I might be a good fit.
I think more women need to just be confident in themselves. And one thing you said in one of your videos is like, everything's negotiable. You can talk about these things in an interview and be like, well, like, I don't know that, but I'm going to learn it. Like I'm going to do it because I can do this, this, and this. I can do that too. What training path did you go through to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so for my current job, I think a lot of the data analytics skills that I have that I gained from my last role are relevant in my new job. And so the data analytics stuff I'm kind of like taking from my previous job, and it's been really helpful. But as it pertains to just like learning the industry and learning the business, that has been really challenging, and I'm still, challenged with that all the time. And I think something that helps is just asking questions all along the way, and not being afraid to look stupid and ask a question that might seem, like a stupid question. But I think what's more stupid is not asking those questions and doing it wrong, or, being 6 months into the job and someone asking, why didn't you ask this sooner if you didn't know how to do it? So I think, asking questions is super important. And that's, something that I'm not great at, but, I've had an opportunity to work on that a lot within my new job.
One of the things that's like big right now, just in jobs in general, is the work from home environment.
Mhm.
And how do you like the work from home environment? How are you with work-life balance, family, all of that kind of thing?
I like working from home. My last job, the last 6 months of it was fully remote, and that was part of the reason why I was looking to switch. Actually, I could not do a fully remote job. It's just not for me. I was feeling really isolated, and I don't think it was good for my mental health to just be at home all day, every day. So I was looking for a job where I could come into the office a little bit. I think hybrid is the perfect mix for me. I love coming into the office just 2 days a week. It allows me to connect with my coworkers and ask questions quicker than I could by just having to like schedule a meeting with them when we're working remotely. It's a lot easier for me to focus when I'm at home. So I do enjoy having the 2 or 3 days a week working from home. I don't have the distractions of everybody talking and people interrupting my work to ask me questions. So I think a lot of us can agree that it's easier to focus at home. But it can't be ignored that it is important to go into the office and have those in-person relationships with your coworkers. So I think just kind of knowing where you succeed in the office and where you succeed at home is important, so that you can kind of play to your strengths, whether you're in the office or whether you're at home.
A lot of people seek these remote jobs because they're coming from maybe like a toxic workplace, and so they're just like kind of traumatized, and so they're like, I don't want to be around people. Like, I want to be at home. And so I think having a culture where you want to go in and see people, along with having that balance of being able to work from home occasionally, is great. But you talk a lot about oversaturation of people in this data analytics world. Do you think that remote feature is kind of feeding into it? Like, people are like, I want to work from home job. Oh, data analysts work from home. Do you think that might be feeding into it? Or what else do you think is feeding into everybody wanting to come into this world?
Yeah, I definitely think the idea that data analyst jobs are remote, or some of them can be done remote, I think that's really attractive to people, and it makes a lot of people want to apply for these roles. So I think it's important for anybody who, has a lot of followers or is an influential voice to be realistic about what we're telling our followers, so that we're not portraying data analytics as some like magic job where you get to work from home. So I think that's important. And then I think another thing that could be contributing to the oversaturation is just all the tech layoffs. So we have a lot of people being laid off from data analyst jobs, and we also have more people coming into the data analyst industry. So I think that combination of having a lot of people who are recently laid off and looking for jobs, plus the people who are already like graduating college or looking to switch fields, who are already going to switch into data analytics, we have just so many people that are interested in the field. And since we did all those tech layoffs, now there's fewer jobs available. So I think that definitely plays into it as well.
All the layoffs that are happening it's been crazy to watch it. And I feel thankful that I have a job every day. What do you suggest to people coming into this world? Okay, like where should they start? What platform should they be using to, like, I know there's Tableau, there's Power BI, there's all these different things. What's your advice to people coming in?
I would say one of the first things that I did, and I thought this was really helpful, is just to go onto like a job searching site before you even like apply for jobs. Look at what data analyst job postings are asking for, and see if this is something that you think you can realistically learn on your own, or if you need to get a degree in this or whatever it is. Decide if this is something that you can realistically do, and if you're still interested after learning exactly what these data analyst roles are. And then I like to take advantage of free resources first. I think a lot of times free resources can go a long way. They're not always the most complete option, but they can at least give you an idea of what it is that you need to start with, what it is that I need to learn. But there's a lot of free resources out there that are also really great. And I know Pragmatic Works also offers free resources that are super helpful, and they've been helpful to me too.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoy our stuff and that it's helpful. That's usually the goal. What's next for Mary the Analyst? What's your goals? What's coming up? What are you getting into?
That's hard to say. I like to think that I'm just kind of open to whatever the next 5 years is going to look like for me. So, I want to continue growing my social media, and I want to continue creating free content. That's, part of my brand is that I have free content in places that you may not expect it to be, like TikTok. And so I'm going to grow my TikTok, my YouTube, my LinkedIn, keep working at my corporate job and gain experience through my corporate job, and eventually be kind of the go-to person online for data analytics.
Amazing. Well, Mary, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to come on here and talk about all this.
Thank you, Amelia. This was awesome.
I will hopefully see you again in the future. And good luck with everything.
Thank you. You too.